Happy Sunday, everybody. Welcome to the Over-Under on 1252 Sports. I'm your host, Harry the Greek. We're going to be on for about an hour and a half, and we're going to give you the best lines today on what to bet, how both these teams got there, and we're going to be doing that all with Peter Blake, Harry the Greek, special guest, Mr. Fred Huebner. That's Chicago's very own Fred Huebner. I cannot wait to see what some of these proposition bets that he likes, because I'll tell you what, he got a wee bit of gamble in him. Not much, but just a wee bit of gambling. I think I've been influencing him just a
wee bit.
Just a wee.
Yes.
Peter, how you doing, buddy?
It's Super Bowl Sunday, right? I mean, it's kind of bittersweet. It's the last game, but it's the crescendo, if you will, between the two best teams and the National Football League. And this is when you have to represent your team. Of course, I'm representing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here down in Holiday. And of course, lots of talk, and not only about this game, but the offseason that is coming with the Bucs and other teams. So exciting times, but also kind of bittersweet, if you will, because it is the last game of the season.
Doesn't it feel like it was yesterday?
It does.
No, seriously, doesn't it?
We always get to this point too, right? I mean, it starts in the off season. We build it up. You get to preseason, you get to regular season, and then bam, just like that, you're to Super Bowl 57 in Arizona.
Anyway, before we bring our guest on, we're going to go ahead and tell you that we are taking open phone calls today. Okay, open phone lines. You can either dial 727-320-5866, or you could dial 727-255-0391. So both lines are going to be open. We're going to go ahead and take your calls. If you have a question for the Greek, Pete, or my man, Mr. Chicago's very own Fred Huebner, just sitting right there. We just said hello, Fred. It's Super Bowl Sunday. I'm doing great, man.
I'm in the middle of watching Manchester United and Leeds. I got up an hour early, had to get some breakfast, something to drink. And unlike my shows on Mondays, I'm not drinking beer this early in the morning. Maybe later I'll be drinking beers, but not at this point.
But Fred, you have a show called Hube's Views and Brews. It's
I know.
4 o'clock somewhere, brother. Come on.
I know. Well, you know what? There's a brewery in Downers Grove, and they had what they call their dark lager days. They had a black Pilsner, a black lager, and a Doppelbock, and I imbibed in those yesterday. So I'm good with the water until game time, I think.
Well, who's winning the Man United game?
No score. And 49th minute, early second half.
And who are they playing today?
Leeds. They're playing Leeds.
I am I'm a huge Chelsea fan, by the way. Have you seen the money that they spent in the past couple of weeks?
They always spend money. That's what that team has done for decades, is spend money. That's all they do. And everybody in the Premier League does. And that's why it's funny, because that's a league that everybody says is the top league in all of sports, the Premier League in soccer, over in England. And they just spend money like crazy. They're kind of like the New York Yankees, but every team spends as much as they can. And every year at the end of the year, usually 2 or 3 or 4 of the same 4 teams are always on top. Right now, I think 3 of the usual suspects are up there in Arsenal, Man City, Man United. Tottenham's not far. So yeah, it's always interesting. And now that I'm not working on a normal basis and I'm retired, except for the podcasts, I actually get to watch soccer early on a Saturday or Sunday morning. So I'm taking full advantage of it. And as you can tell, you constantly, Harry, could talk about how nice it is down in Florida. Today it's going to be a balmy upper 40s. You can tell the sun just shining down. So it feels like anybody that grows up in the Midwest, this is like a 55. This is a short sleeve shirt today.
This is short. You're actually going out with a windbreaker, right?
So there's no doubt. Yesterday I had a little zip up hoodie. That was it. Nothing else.
I can't believe and for people down in Florida, because we do this podcast live on 1252 Sports in Chicago. You don't need an introduction up there, but people down here in Florida really don't know your credentials and how long you were in radio and talking on the sports phone. You remember the sports line from years ago where you got your break from. But for people that are down here in Florida, and believe me, there's a lot of people in the Midwest that tune into this show from down here. Please, I want you to tell people how you got started, where you worked, what you did. Let's just go through this for a few minutes, because I think it's really interesting, Fred.
Yeah, I when I got out of high school, I knew that I never wanted to take math or science ever again. So I went to a broadcasting school. It was called the Midwestern School of Broadcasting. They taught you how to spin records. They taught you how to write commercials. they taught you how to do all the things you needed to do. And back then, there were no such thing as sliders on control boards. They were all dials. You turned them, and they 1 through 11, kind of like the Spinal Tap movie. Okay, so I did that, and then I got a job at Sports Phone, and Sports Phone was a company called Phone Programs, and they provided a service through Illinois Bell. And what the service was you dial up 976-1313, and what would happen is you'd get a 59-second recorded message of sports scores. And then during the week, we'd go every half hour. We'd give the latest sports news. We'd run quickie quizzes and things like that. So I worked there from 77 till 2000. By 2000, you had, ESPN. I mean, you had ESPN. You had the crawl at the bottom of the screen like we have here and all those things. And there was nowhere to go because the only all sports station in the country at that point was in New York, The Fan. That was it.
WFAN. And you know what? And I remember when it started in 77 because I was a huge Bears fan.
Uh-huh.
And, and I was how old in 70s? I was 11 years old. I'm trying to date myself.
I wasn't even born.
I know. I understand that. But it was so cool because you would call up. I mean, and it used to have a phone number, Pete, that you could dial the phone number if you didn't know what time it was.
Yes.
Just to tell you at the tone, the time will be 10:13 p.m. Then they had the weather phone to tell you exactly what it was. And then when the sports phone came out, I don't know who thought of it, but awesome. They made a fortune, and it was awesome. And it wasn't just you that got your start with radio with that. There was many people that got their start through that.
Yeah, Jeff Joniak, who's been the longtime announcer of the Chicago Bears. He was there out of Iowa State. Chris Madsen, who was the first play-by-play guy for the Anaheim Mighty Ducks back in the day. Brian Wheeler, who went to Loyola in Chicago and also became the longtime announcer for the Portland Trailblazers. Dave Wills, you guys know Dave Wills, longtime announcer for the Tampa Bay Rays. He was at Sports Phone. That's right. Yeah. Yep, he was over at Sports Phone. Lou Canellis, who does sports here on Fox 32. I mean, I could go on and on forever. David Schuster, George Hoffman. Yeah, it's amazing. Les Grobstein, who unfortunately passed away, he had a show with us here on 1252 for a while. Yeah, one of just a complete sports encyclopedia in that cranium of his, or in his car. Because if you ever saw his car, he had every media guide I think he ever had in his car at all times, I think, because he collected them all. And you always had to watch him.
Is it true, Fred, that there wasn't a stat that man did not know?
No, he was great. He was unbelievable. He was so amazing with that kind of stuff. He knew them all. I think I got him once because I asked him who played first, who was the credited with the final out on defense in the Joel Horland no-hitter in 1967. And it was a defensive substitution named Cotton Nash, like a 6'9" guy that came in for the last inning or two and played first base. And I think I got him on that one. But other than that, you could never catch him. He was always good. Just a great guy, really missed here in Chicago.
Nice. I got to be honest, man. I used to, even from down here, up north in Chicago, I followed your career as well as Mike Norris and Schuster's and everybody else that you had mentioned. But even when I came down here, I had that thirst, and I've had DirecTV for I can't tell you how many years. I've had to pay for CSN, Comcast, down here through DirecTV to be able to get channel 665, to be able to watch, the post-game shows and really keep my ear to the ground. But then the wonderful world of the internet came out, bro. Yeah. I mean, huge. And then I was able to tune into the Score, and it was just awesome. As a matter of fact, I've actually called your show a couple of times and talked to you on the phone. And it's always been a pleasure, But I noticed. Go ahead.
I'm wearing a Team Bongo. Everybody knows our buddy, our pal. I did post-game shows with Steve McMichael from the Chicago Bears for like 4 or 5 years, and now he is struggling with ALS. And Team Mongo is a big thing. They've got they actually, one of the places here, they actually have a big watch party, and all the proceeds going to Steve Mongo McMichael. His wife Misty is going to show up there, and I know Ric Flair stops by 3-4 times a year, stops by and sees Steve and things like that. So prayers going out to Steve Mongo McMichael. But when I left Sports Phone in 90, there were no sports stations, but the Score started in 92. I hooked on as a part-time producer, and you guys know what that kind of means. That means cutting up tape, answering phone calls, doing whatever the guys want you to do, running out and getting food if you need to. So I did that, and I progressed from that to an update guy. I was a reporter. Then I was a co-host, and then started hosting shows. I worked with Mike North for 4 years. I worked with Mike Murphy for 5 years doing morning drive. Yep, morning drive over on The Score. And then I got let go in 2008, went over to ESPN from 2010 until just last January. I was there as a part-time position, but it was funny. I was looking at my past calendars, which we all have a tendency to keep, as I just got done moving into my new house here in Lockport. And I saw from like 2012, there were a couple in the month of 2012, I worked 6 days a week as a part-timer. And the union was trying to, the station was trying to put one over on the union because the union wanted me to be full-time. And that was a whole story. But I was there until I retired, January 9th of 2022. So then,
nice.
because
I gotta say, Fred, and I know quite a few people still up in the market up there, and people that were in the market and really haven't gotten that close with you. For people that don't know, Fred's late wife was my next door neighbor.
Yeah,
I mean, for years growing up. I mean, I could tell you stories, and I've only told you one, and I remember telling you that story. But Fred, it was the ups and downs in the careers of you and many other people up there, and I got to tell you, I'm watching you from down here, and it really seems like you're enjoying yourself now.
Oh,
and
God,
you're
yes.
not going through that. But I'll tell you what a loss for the people that wanted to listen to a post-game show.
Yeah.
When you were talking, the way you brought the fans on, you got them in and out. You gave everybody a chance. You gave everybody that platform. It was just a lot of fun.
Yeah,
And it just really was.
Well, and you guys know this probably too. And Peter, I know, Tampa's had some good successes, but on post-game shows, nobody calls if a team wins. If a team loses, everybody will call. Because there's nothing to complain about when Tom Brady throws for 4 touchdowns and the Buccaneers win easily. It was the same with the Bears. But fortunately, here in Chicago, we didn't have to worry about the Bears winning all that often. So
yeah, but they lost by just by a possession for like 7 or 8 games,
that's
right?
What
Pete?
makes the best. Listen, that's what makes the best post games is when the team loses, because that's when you can really show your creative fire to the fans and kind of get their interaction. But you're exactly right. When they win, it's crickets out there. It really is, as my dog is barking in the background because I have no idea why. But you mentioned Steve Mongo McMichael, first announcer on Monday Night Raw, WCW, and Harry always makes fun of me about this.
Oh, my God. We're not going wrestling.
No, we are going wrestling.
Oh, no.
The guy
Fred.
Mongo was not only a talented announcer, but he was actually in the Four
was.
Horsemen with Ric Flair and everybody else. So he was talented. He was amazing in itself. And they actually had a real storyline there with his wife, Deborah McMichael, which didn't end up so well. But
well, and it's funny because you bring it up, and we would do remotes with them, with Steve sometimes. We did pre-games one year. We did pre-game shows. So we did them. There were just as many wrestling fans at those remotes as there were football fans. There were wrestling fans who knew nothing about Steve's career as a football player. They loved him as a wrestler, and they loved him as part of the Four Horsemen. It was amazing. But they would come there. They just wanted to talk wrestling. They wanted to talk about Ric Flair and about all the wrestling stories and everything else like that, because hey, Steve didn't regret a day in his life. He enjoyed every single minute on the football field, off the football field, and and wrestling. And it's a shame to see him dealing with this illness. It's just a horrible disease.
And before he got hurt, he was like he was going to be a top wrestler there. I mean, he had the skills to do it. Definitely had he had the mic skills. He could cut a promo, and he was definitely wrestling Goldberg at the time. And again, he got hurt, but he was in the Four Horsemen with Ric Flair and Arn Anderson and Chris Benoit and Dean Malenko. He was going to be one of the guys. So he's definitely a wrestler, not only just a football player, and of course being a part of the first episode in 1995 in the Mall of America, which was huge at the time, Fred, because they were taking on WWF Raw, and they beat Raw for 83 weeks, and he definitely had a big part of that, the first inception of it.
Well, and people forget too about Steve McMichael as a football player, because when you look at that Bears team, you had Richard Dent, you had Singletary, you had Peyton, you had all those guys. You had the defense, a tremendous defense. Dan Hampton, one of his close friends. But there's only one player, I think, one football player in the history of the game that played the middle line position on defense, a defensive tackle position that has as many sacks since they started keeping track of them than Steve McMichael. I can't remember if it's John Randall. I can't remember who it is, but there's only one
Irvin
guy.
John Randall.
Yeah.
And I'm almost positive it was.
I think it is John Randall, but he's the only guy that had more sacks from that tackle position than Steve McMichael, and him not being in the Hall of Fame. And we see, people in Chicago are all going crazy about Devin Hester, but Steve Mongo McMichael not being in the Hall of Fame, that's a shame. That's a true shame.
That is a total shame, to be honest with you, because there should be more players on that defense, and I'm always going to regard it as the best defense ever to play. And you want to know something? It wasn't that 85 defense that was the best. It was the 84 defense with Todd Bell and Al Harris. And people don't realize how devastating that defense was, and especially, first off, what those two players did for free agency. Okay, it was incredible. They held out.
Yeah, they screwed themselves.
Yeah, they did screw themselves.
Yeah.
Who replaced Al Harris that year in 85?
Boy, I told you, Harry, I'm retired.
Todd Bell. Who replaced Todd Bell? That was Dave Duerson. It was plug and play. It's just a miracle what they did. But you know what? Talking about great football teams, Fred, I'm going to throw this right out there. I had picked the Philadelphia Eagles to beat the 49ers. And before you give me a frown, I knew I was picking an inferior team.
Right.
But because it was the likes of Brock Purdy, who I thought played extremely well, Mr. Irrelevant, I just don't – I didn't believe the 49ers, even if he was healthy. I thought they could have made a better game of it. But San Francisco doesn't blitz, and not San Francisco, Philadelphia doesn't blitz that much. They get that pressure with the four-man line, Fred. And your thoughts on having to face the defense. What's Mahomes going to look at? With this secondary as good as it is, and they can get pressure. Do you see images of possibly what happened a couple of years ago against Tampa, and Mahomes is running for his life, and they just get beat?
Well, he could be. I'm looking at some of the numbers here. He actually ran 497 yards before throwing the ball or being sacked against Tampa Bay. He was running all over the place. Absolutely. Sacked 9 times, I think it was. And the thing is, though, they have weapons everywhere. They throw the screen passes to their running backs. I know last week, I think we talked about it on our show, is that Philadelphia is really good at stopping the screen passes because they don't blitz so many people. But they can find so many people. And I don't know how all season long and throughout the playoffs, Travis Kelce gets so wide open. I just don't understand it. He's the one guy that can kill you. Right now, there's nobody really that stands out. Valdez-Scantling is a guy who stepped up with the 6 for 116 in their last game. But it's amazing that Kelce's always open. But I have a hard time going against Kansas City today. I know I'm not a huge fan of Philadelphia, but they ran the ball well. They blocked so well running the ball against the Niners. Even in their playoff wins, I'm looking here. Jalen Hurts only averaging 137.5 yards passing the ball. That sounds like Justin Fields when he's trying to throw the ball with the Bears this year. So I'm expecting a great game. And that's you guys are old enough to remember there were years where the Super Bowl sucked. They were just brutal. Games weren't worth watching. Blowouts and things like that. Yes, the last decade or maybe even 15 years, we've had some absolutely great Super Bowls, and that's what I'm hoping this one's going to be, because with a point spread of 1.5, whatever it is. Yeah, I mean, the gamblers are expecting it. I think most of the people are expecting it, and I can't wait. And we have to wait forever till was it 6:30 your time, 5:30 ours here in Chicago. But it's a long wait. But I'm looking for a great game. I can't wait.
Besides the Broncos and the Seahawks, I mean, everything else has been pretty close. Of course, that first half, the Atlanta Falcons and Tom Brady led New England Patriots down 28-3, one of the biggest comebacks in NFL history. But you're exactly right. There was a time there, whether it's the Denver Broncos and the San Francisco 49ers blowing their doors off, or the 49ers blowing any team out, at the end of the day, it's always been kind of a blowout. Broncos and the Washington football team at the time get blown out. Right. So hopefully this is a close Super Bowl. with two talented quarterbacks, two young quarterbacks that represent the National Football League. And I think the key to that game is, and you go back to Super Bowl 55 when Mahomes is running for his life, same type of defense. I actually think a more talented defense, if you will, when it comes to getting after the quarterback in the Philadelphia Eagles. Over 80 sacks, including the postseason. That offensive line is going to have to be on it today. And then furthermore, is Mahomes going to be healthy? A high ankle sprain. He's talking about it all week long, how he's in a better place. I'm not sure if he can do the things that he wants to do, which is basically get outside of the pocket and improvise and make things happen.
Well, and Peter, I think you know this, but yeah, Peter, you've covered the game long enough. I think you know this. A lot of times in Super Bowl week, the things you hear are put out there and you're not sure if you can believe anything. Mahomes could come on out there and run for 80 yards today. It's bizarre, but I've only been to two radio rows. Now they just call them media row down at the Super Bowl. One for the Bears Colts and one for the Bears. Actually not for the Bears. We were one in Arizona also. And you listen, you talk to these people, and you're not sure what to believe, and especially for the players as they lead up. So I'm eager to see what Mahomes looks like when he first gets out there. Maybe he dead legs it for a little while, and then all of a sudden he just turns it on and fools everybody, including the three of us. But Peter, I want to ask you a question, because when I got up and I'm sitting here watching the soccer game, which is still scoreless in the 68th minute, so I didn't miss a whole lot. But yeah, exactly. The thing that bothers me, and I talked about it on my show on Monday, is that I hate the 2 weeks between the championship games and the Super Bowl, because it seems like it's been so long. Now, some people will say, well, they can't get the teams there. Well, they've done it in the past. It's worked before. They make this such a huge extravaganza, but I can't stand the 2 weeks. It's when they kick off, it's like we haven't seen football forever. It's been such a long time, and like you guys were saying, it's over. This is the last game. It is depressing. We wait so long, and the season goes by so quick. In less than half a year, the season's over. And so Peter, what are your thoughts on the 2 weeks?
Well, I mean, if it's interesting at the end of the day, which there has not been any storylines that have come out, it seems like a very boring Super Bowl, if you will. But you mentioned it, Fred, Super Bowl 57 between the Bucs and the Raiders, where the Bucs took care of business 48-21. They're getting out of that NFC Championship game, going right into the game the very next week. It would be nice for that, but then again, it's almost like I don't want it to end. And then on top of it, the NFL, they know how to sell this. They're selling Pro Bowl skills challenge. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. I like your idea. I like to go right into the Super Bowl, but then again, there's a part of me that's a bittersweet and doesn't want to see it to end. So you know what? Maybe keep that 2 weeks. It seems like forever, but this is the last game of it. Can they do it? Yes. Will they do it? No, because the NFL is all about money at the end of the day. And the more they promote this, the more they use that machine that they have called the National Football League. It's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere anytime soon.
Look, man, I gotta tell you, everybody knows that I'm an advocate for gambling in sports. I'm not an advocate, and I'm going to keep standing on my soapbox and keep preaching. There is no place for a sports book in any venue in the National Football League, Major League Baseball, basketball, hockey. They don't need to intertwine. They still need to stay in their respective places. Illinois has casinos. Indiana has casinos. We don't have them here yet in Florida for sports betting.
Not yet. But it's coming.
Which is, it's going to cause corruption. I mean, Fred, you might remember this. In the past 10 years, there was a couple of NBA referees that got busted for, if you don't think that this is happening, if you don't think this is happening now, you got blinders on, man. I mean, the NFL is just going to continue to sweep it under the rug because it's not a multi-million-dollar industry. It's a billion-dollar industry. And of course that money machine's going to get going. But before I get off on too much of a tangent, I want your keys to the game, Fred, on how Kansas City, and then I'm going to give mine, and how Kansas City can actually win this game. What do they have to do, Fred, and then you, Pete?
The offensive line has to step up. I know they've had some injuries, but the offensive line's got to keep Mahomes upright. Mahomes has to obviously get rid of the ball quickly, which he does. They're very good at the short passing game, so I think they can do that. Obviously, turnovers, that's the key to any game. So that's a lame point, okay? Defensively, they got to try and stop the run, which nobody has really been able to do against Philadelphia, no matter who it is, Sanders or Gainwell or Hurts if he decides to run. So the defense has to stop that running game, because I think if Jalen Hurts has to sit back in the pocket and throw, I think that Kansas City can win. I know Goddard's a guy that not as good as Kelsey, but I saw somebody earlier this week post that the 2 best tight ends in football are in this game. Did you forget George Kittle? I think you probably did.
I think they did.
So I mean, I think those are some of the keys. You got to keep Mahomes upright. Mahomes has to, get the ball out of his hands quickly, at least early, and see how things go. And then they got to try to slow down that Philadelphia running game, which has been, like I said, it was blocked so well against the number 1 defense in the Niners last week. Sanders scored 2 touchdowns where he wasn't touched on either one. He ran into the end zone, not touched. And so that's got to change for Kansas City's defense.
Well, in San Francisco's defense, at that point in time when he ran in, I mean, there's only times you can give someone a short field, and there's only so much at a defense. I don't care if it was the 84 and 85 Chicago. Well, maybe not them, but seriously, I mean, there's only so much you're going to be able to do. I mean, before you could just get deflated, it's just impossible. I mean, it's just impossible. Peter, what'd you think?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. You definitely got to keep Mahomes upright. That defense has got to get after it. You got to cover Travis Kelsey. You got to take away his biggest weapon at the end of the day. And then you're exactly right with the Kansas City Chiefs. They have to stop that running game. I forced Jalen Hurts to throw from the pocket because I'm not necessarily sure here, Fred and Harry, that Hurts is 100% at the end of the day. And furthermore, Chris Jones, if you're the Philadelphia Eagles in that offensive line, because that has been the story of that offense, you got to do something against him because he's playing at another level right now, much like Aaron Donald. So I think those are my keys to the game. If I'm the Kansas City Chiefs, I force Jalen Hurts to throw from the pocket. Don't let him get outside of the pocket. Make them one-dimensional by shutting down their running game. And then, of course, on the Eagles side, get the pressure on him. You get the pressure. I feel like you win that matchup because you don't have Tyreek Hill. And, of course, you've got 2 of the best corners in the league with, of course, Bradbury and Darius Slay.
That's true. And you know what? We're going to add one more to the show. He's finally got his computer fixed. I mean, I know he's been dying to get on there. It's one of the 2 giant goofballs himself, Mr. Andrew Davis. Andrew, how are you, buddy?
Gentlemen, how's it going?
Yeah, that's not fixed.
Sounds like he's got a waterfall.
Oh my God! Hang on.
House there. What
hang
is
on.
that?
We're going to bring him back on. I don't say anything. I think you're in an outhouse, aren't you? Tell us the truth.
Maybe.
I mean, it's really bad, Andrew.
It's like you're in a helicopter.
Okay, not fixed then.
Not fixed. Andrew, we're going to give you the Forrest Gump wave. Bye, Andrew. Oh, tell me about it. No, those are all interesting perspectives. My perspective for Kansas City to win this game, and I want everybody to know, well, a lot of people do know because I stood on that soapbox because, I'm not right all the time, but when I am, boy, I really let you know.
Yeah.
Kansas City.
Yes, you do.
Yep, I have to. Kansas City was marked for dead. Period. Dead to start the season.
True.
Denver's going to win a division. I was like, nope, last place. I mean, we have clippings of this. I was like, you cannot knock Mahomes and this team off the top of that mountain until someone's earned it. Oh, they got Herbert down in Chargers. I get it. The Raiders are much improved. I get it. How'd that work out for everybody? And then
Not so much.
Hold on. But then, Fred and Pete, someone made the cardinal mistake to tell me Kansas City got lucky to get it to the Super Bowl. And I went, oh, wait a minute. The way Cincinnati got lucky last year? Hey, man, in 5 years, they don't look at the luck factor.
No.
They may look at Deflategate. They look at W's and L's. But this is how Kansas City wins this game.
Spygate, yeah.
Or Spygate. How many more different gates? I don't know. Watergate.
What did they do? Go to the walkthrough against the Rams. And, of course, the Rams at the time were one of the biggest favorites. And, of course, New England wins it. And you can have all the scandal you want to. But if you have some type of advantage, it's definitely going to help you. I mean, you would think, right, Fred?
Yeah. You would think it would help a little bit. The Deflategate, what, my God, I've told the story with with Harry, I think, before, but I was getting ready to do a 3-hour evening show the day that the Deflategate story came out. My executive producer of the station at ESPN said, "You got to talk 3 hours about Deflategate." I said, "You got to be kidding me. What a joke that is. Absolute joke." And thank goodness that got finally swiped under the rug and everything else, and a little suspension here and go from there. But that was just the biggest joke in all of football.
Yeah, just totally joke. Total joke. Absolutely.
Back to what I was saying with Kansas City. This is the keys to the game for Kansas City. And I still think they're going to have Tampa Bay Buccaneer-itis. They're going to want to throw the ball 50 and 60 times a game. And that's going to be a mistake against this defense because they're going to be able to get pressure with that four-man front. That's a devastating four-man front. It's almost as good as what the 49ers were this year. The end. And that's just the plain truth because San Francisco had the blitz a lot more where Philadelphia didn't have to. If the Kansas City Chiefs learn from their mistakes from 2 years ago and decide that they're going to commit to running the football, this game will be a lot closer, and I'm going to tell you why. Jalen Hurts is not that good of a quarterback. Let me repeat it. He's not, in my opinion, that good of a quarterback. He can run the ball. He's averaging, 100, 125, 150 yards a game passing. It's ridiculous. You don't win Super Bowls when you do that. They run a very good scheme with this RPO. Look, man, this team's in the Super Bowl because of running the football and playing defense. They get after the quarterback. But if Kansas City can find any semblance of a running game and get those safeties up on the line of scrimmage to have to respect it, Mahomes will go off big in this game. But my question is, do you think that Kansas City can change their game plan just for this game? Peter, you first.
I don't think so. I really don't. And I think that's why they're going to end up losing this game. Pacheco is talented. McKinnon is talented, especially Pacheco has come on. But I definitely think they want to put it in Patrick Mahomes' hands, and that's what Andy Reid wants to do. And I think you look at the other matchup, and I think you're wrong about this. You can win a Super Bowl with managing the game, and that's what they have asked Jalen Hurts to do. Not turn it over, not throw too many times, depend on the running game. And the matchup to look at, guys, is if they do shut down that running game, and that would be the Chiefs versus the Eagles. You have Devontae Smith on the outside, and you also have A.J. Brown. This is the reason why you get Brown in the offseason in the first place, develop that chemistry with Jalen Hurts. Hurts has definitely been an MVP candidate with turning around that interception to touchdown ratio from last year. You hope that Justin Fields can do the same thing this year coming up. I think they're two of the same quarterbacks. I like the Philadelphia Eagles. I think you can manage the game, but that's what's so dangerous about this Eagles team at the end of the day. They can win in so many ways. If they need Hurts to manage the game, that's what he can do. If you need to run the ball and play defense, that's what they can do. They're a complete team. You talk about the talent of Mahomes and Kelsey, but what else besides Jones on defense? I like the Eagles in that matchup on the outside with those outside targets.
And that's why I said if Kansas City can run the ball, this is where it makes the difference. And you just proved my point. You can win a Super Bowl by running the football and playing defense because that's how most teams get there. But when you're playing a Patrick Mahomes, look, if I'm going to give up 3 or 4 yards per rush, and on the other end of it, Kansas City's getting 10 and 12 yards a clip throwing the football because they're running the ball effectively, then sure, Kansas City wins this game. Fred, you settle it.
Quickly, Marcus Rashford with a header in the 79th minute. Manchester United leads 1-0 over Leeds.
Yeah!
And Harry, you'll like this because before we got on and before this game started, I went to my book, my provider, which is Points Bet, and I'm not getting paid by them at all. As a matter of fact, I'm giving them a lot of money. But anyway, they had a what the hell's it called? They had a parlay set, and it was Rashford scoring, Manchester United winning, and under 3.5 goals in the game. Now they're reviewing it for a possible offside, so hopefully it stays. And if that's the case, I got 12 minutes to go before I win. So
what kind of odds are you getting on this one? Because
it wasn't as big as you would think. It was because he scores a lot. It was just plus 240. So it wasn't nearly as. Usually, I'm a bigger parlay guy. That's why my account's gone from $400 to like $98 because I'm a parlay guy and I always win 3 out of 4, 2 out of 3. I know.
And you're going to
not
get
a
it
big-
back. And I'm not a parlay person, correct, Pete?
No,
No,
not
you're
at all.
not.
Everybody hears that. I don't. But
There's
when
a
I do-
reason for that because
Right.
everything has to go correct, and most of the time it doesn't do that.
Yeah.
Fred,
Well,
I went in the 5th week of the season. I went 7-1 on the games that I picked, and lost. Do
Yep.
you understand?
Yep.
And my wife
Yeah.
looked at me going, "Look, honey, you went 7-1. How the hell did you lose?" And
Yeah.
I showed it to her. She
Bring
goes,
up the suck right there.
"Yeah, tell me about it." I mean, it was
See-
because I liked one particular game, and every team was predicated off of this one game.
Yeah.
Really?
See, you're a more knowledgeable gambler. I am a cheap gambler. I'm a $5 and $10 guy, and it's tough to bet 6 games at $5 a piece. At the end of the day, you go 4-2. What do you win? $8, something like that. I mean, you're not going to win a lot of money. So, because I'm not a big gambler, you try to shoot for the stars, and I actually hit, a nice.
You hit a couple of big ones, Fred.
Yeah, I hit a big one for $3. I hit 4 guys in baseball getting 2 hits each, and it was a capper with Pete Alonso getting a game-winning hit, and for $3 I got 440. So that
think
wasn't
about
bad.
that, Pete. $3. You know what kind of return that is? That's as big as the return as my wife got when not Indianapolis, when Manning was playing for Denver and they were playing Seattle for the Super Bowl, and one of the prop bets, and it's never been this high since. Did you know it was 5,000 to 1?
Hmm.
No, I'm sorry. No, I'm corrected. It was 1,000 to 1.
1,000 to 1.
She had $5 that there would be a safety in the game.
Yeah.
Are you serious? Now you ain't getting those kind of numbers in these
no.
games. Not
No,
even
no.
close. I mean, think
Okay.
about that.
Let me answer your question before we go too far, because we can talk about the gambling all the time. I know you guys do.
Yes.
But I agree with exactly what Peter was saying. It would shock me. Fat Mike and I have talked about this all year long, that Kansas City has the running backs that could run the ball, but they just don't seem to use them. There are other teams that have the same situation throughout the NFL that have a decent running game. They don't use it because it's like, okay, well, this is the NFL. We've got to throw the ball. If Andy Reid and his coaching staff, Matt Nagy's there, maybe that won't work. With Andy Reid, I mean, if they think about it, running the football would be a great way to start the game, get into Philadelphia's defense, and then maybe change things up from there. But starting the game, running the ball would be a wonderful thing to see Kansas City do. I just don't know that that's something they'll plan to do for the Super Bowl.
No, neither do I. Hey, we're going to get some of these comments. There's some pretty decent ones, but it's the tribal troll himself.
Yep.
Troy Polamalu says the Sports Web show. Troy says,
No, it's not.
remember that you can dial the number at the bottom of your screen, and with just $1 a day, you can help feed Tampa Bay Ray a warm jelly sandwich and a warm cup of coffee. Roger Shoe says, morning, guys.
Acknowledge me.
By the way, Roger's a guy that's originally from Chicago. Troy says, someone's TikTok's notification keep ringing.
This guy sucks.
Tell me about it. Scott Thayer says, go Chiefs.
Ooh,
Scott,
yeah.
Scott also says, sounds like he's talking into a fan. I think he was referring to Andrew. He was talking to Andrew Davis.
Yeah.
Troll says, hello, Andrew. Can you call us back once you're off the helicopter?
How about them Bucks, baby?
Chris says, I would play press man and double Kelsey because Mahomes threw 5 to 10 yards at a time. That sounds like what Tampa Bay did to him in that first go around in the Super Bowl. Jeff Stassi from Chicago says, Hurts had a couple of games that were average. Philly's D is good. If KC wins, I feel it's all going to fall on Kelsey being MVP. Those are some great odds. That's a great comment. Troy Polamalu says, I think Ray's a big gambler. That's how he probably ended up in the streets. Hey, I got bad news for you, Troy. Ray tips more in a week than you make.
There
Just
you go.
throwing that out there. Just throwing that out there, brother. Ray tips in a week what you make. And I know Fred does. Trust me, he does.
Well, I tip enough.
Oh, you tip enough. At least you're not like Scottie Pippen. What was his nickname for people out there that don't know it?
No tipping Pippen.
There you got it. No
tipping.
tipping Pippen.
Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah. Wait a minute. You should be blessed I'm in your establishment. Give me my free food, and I'm not going to tip you. I
Is
couldn't
that
believe
why?
I heard
Is
that.
that why he doesn't have his wife right now? Is that why Michael
Jordan's son. Is
Jordan,
that true?
Yes, that is true.
Yeah.
Isn't that true?
Yeah, as
Yes.
far as I know. You know the thing about that's really weird, and you should understand this. Most people will. When you're struggling, when you're struggling, you don't have a lot of money. You have to pay for everything. When you're popular, be it a radio personality or a sports athlete or whatever, and you can afford to pay for everything, they give you stuff for free.
I know.
Something's wrong there. This doesn't make any sense.
Makes no sense.
It
No.
is. I mean, and Mike, how many free hot dogs can Mike North eat in 1 week? I'm kidding.
You know what, Mike and I, we had one of the greatest runs in sports radio. When we were done on Fridays, we would have a few drinks in his office at the station. Then we would go on over to Gibson's over on Rush Street, and we get the corner booth. So we were looking out on top of the corner table, looking out at everybody walking down Rush Street on a Friday. That's how we ended our week each and every week when I worked with Mike North. And I kept wanting to pay for the jumbo, and I mean jumbo shrimp cocktail. He would never let us pay for it, and but he would tip the valet $100. It's like Mike when Mike made money, he gave money, which was a wonderful thing. You don't see that with a lot of people.
No, you don't. But you know what?
No.
For a lot of people that don't know it, I think Mike, and I don't know this to be true, and I think I read this years ago, was the first. How can I put it? He had like the biggest contract in radio at one time, didn't he?
Maybe
He was
wasn't
on
it-
sports radio at the time.
It was for sports radio. I think he
Right.
signed the largest contract.
Well, he actually went to, I want to say it was Pittsburgh, where the guy that ran the station or the group of stations was living or working out of. And he sat in the office until he got a chance to talk to him. And his deal was, I think it was 5 years, 7.5 mil.
Wow.
So that's not bad.
5 years.
Was that
7.5 mil.
1.5 a year? So
I think BB's happy with that.
she was very happy.
Hey, did your goal
was very
stick or
happy.
no?
Yes, it did. Well, and they scored another one, so now it's 2-0 with about 4 minutes and stoppage time to go. So 2-0 Manchester United.
Is that a rocking
And
chair
I
bet?
got I got an avid.
Is it what?
Go ahead, Pete.
Is that a rocking chair bet at that point, Harry and Fred? Is that what you call it? 2-0?
Yeah, but you never say beat me from here. Fred, don't do it. Don't do it.
No.
Another comment,
that's
Gary
fine.
Ivick, huge Philly fan, says Eagles hired Vic Fangio to help prep the defense for the Super Bowl. If that's the case, that even makes him even more potent because Vic, he's never been known to have to send 8 people like a Buddy Ryan did to get after the quarterback.
Wow.
This Philly defense is something scary this year. Troy Polamalu says, Andrew, do you copy? Do you copy? Can you hear us, Roger?
That's the suck right there.
All right, let's get out to some of the prop bets that are out there because everybody loves a good prop bet. Fred, over or under 17,000 hot dogs consumed at the game?
17,000 hot dogs. I'm going
17.
over. Yeah,
It's-
because all that means is what 1/5 of the stadium has to have a hot dog. How many people they cram in there? Probably 78,000, right?
Over or under 200,000 beers at the game?
200,000. That's a lot. I'm going under.
I went under. Peter?
Yeah, I go under on that. But with the hot dogs, you go over. I mean, this is the national leading day to go to the bathroom. Of course, there's going to be more than 17,000 hot dogs. Have you looked at our society? They don't eat healthy. Come on.
You
Easy
mean
bet.
hot dogs? Hold on. You mean hot dogs aren't healthy? I had a sausage yesterday at this Goldfinger place. They had I had a spicy wild boar sausage. Was that okay? Is that good?
It
It
has
was
to
tasty. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it's tasty. It's not healthy, but yeah, it's a national leading day to go to the bathroom. Of course,
Okay.
there's going to be over 17,000.
Peter,
Yes.
Here was my big problem. Everybody talks
Yes.
about healthy, staying in shape, and all that stuff. How did Jim
Well-
Fix die? Jim Fix, the guy that was a runner and all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
He ran. He was
Died.
in great shape. He wrote books. Dies. Come on.
Passed away of cancer, did he not?
It's all, you know what it is? It's all in your genes. I mean, if you come up with good genes, you can do pretty much whatever you need to do.
Hey, I'm fighting
My parents
high blood
both lived.
pressure.
Yeah, my parents both lived to their mid 80s, so I'm in good shape, I think. So
I saw Jim Brown the other night. I don't know. Get your
oh,
opinion. That was
sad.
I
That's
didn't.
heartbreaking.
How bad is it looking?
That's heartbreaking. Doesn't
he
look the
couldn't-
same man.
He couldn't react. And I always get the guy's name wrong. The guy from Good Morning Football, Andrew. What the hell? What's the guy's name? The guy that did the whole big
Kyle
runs.
Brandt. Kyle Brandt.
Kyle. I was, and he did a great job. I thought that was hilarious. But I love the fact that he actually went over and said hi to Jim Brown. I thought that was very classy. But that did show us all that Jim Brown's really struggling and really in bad shape. But it was amazing that he was there, and that was wonderful, I thought.
Wow.
Let me ask you this, because you're kind of a custodian of the game, if you will. You've been around the game for a long time. You've covered the Bears for a long time. Do you think the league should do a better job with past players? I mean, you not only see Brown, but also Earl Campbell in a wheelchair. I mean, these players are not doing great. And at the time they were playing, they weren't getting paid millions and millions of dollars. Of course, they were the gatekeepers, if you will, Fred, of these players today making millions of dollars.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, the NFL should be doing much better. There was the movie that Will Smith did, Concussion, I think it was called.
Concussion. Yep,
yeah.
2012. Yeah.
And it showed in that movie where you just, the league, once you're out of the league, it don't take very good care of you. If you have medical problems, which you got because of being in the league. Tight end, Earl Mackey, I want to say, was one of them. He was struggling with dementia and things like that. And his wife, they had to jump through hoops to try to get more insurance to help them. And it happens all the time with players out of the league that gave their blood and guts, and blood and guts out there in the NFL. And the NFL is doing nothing but making money hand over fist. They should be doing far more for the former players than they're doing now, in my opinion. And I don't think I don't think there's any question about that. I know Ron Rivera, before he became a coach, he was a big supporter of that. The teams or the league just doesn't do enough for the former players, and there's no doubt he's absolutely correct.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that.
CTE and former players over 90%.
Yeah,
how many players are going to have to take their lives unnecessarily? I mean, it's not like they're broke and they have to jump off the Skyway Bridge. By the way, for the people up in Chicago, that's that bridge that connects Pinellas County and Manatee County.
Right.
It jumps over the mouth of Tampa Bay. And let me tell you something. That's a scary-ass bridge, bro. I mean, that thing is high up there. But seriously, I mean, when does the NFL finally have to acknowledge that? But that's for another show. That's for another time.
Sure.
Because of the fact that it's just so sad. I mean, the first one that comes to mind are a couple of Chicago Bears players. And if it happens to one player in a team, that's too many. But when you've had multiple players, it's unreal. I mean, anybody see Wilbur Marshall? How he walks? How about William the Refrigerator Perry?
Sure.
I mean, the list can just keep going on and on and on.
Real quickly, I know we'll get right to it, but because we're here in Chicago, or I'm here in Chicago, one of the strangest things is that Bears offensive line, all of the big guys in the offensive line, they look like they are tennis players as opposed to former football players. Jay Hilgenberg, Tom Thayer, all these guys. Even Olin Kreutz is a lot smaller than he was when he was playing the game. Almost every one of the offensive players, Jimbo Covert, everybody, you name it. The defensive players and some of the other guys, they still got the bulk, a lot of them, the bulk to them. But when the offensive linemen, I'm not sure how it is in Tampa, Peter, but when offensive linemen in the NFL retire, they drop the weight immediately and they look unbelievably amazing. And you would think like the commercial with Joe Montana, where the guy doesn't know who Montana was. And he said he played the game and he says, what were you, a tennis player or soccer player or whatever? But that's what these guys look like. And I've seen Hilgenberg and Thayer and guys like that. And it goes like, holy cow, this guy played offensive line. But it's amazing that they're in great shape. You don't hear a lot of problems because they're not doing as much hitting. The offensive lineman, which is strange.
One that comes to mind in Tampa was a defensive player by the name of Dante Culpepper. He's an attorney here in.
Well, no, not Dante.
Not Dante.
Brad Culpepper.
Brad Culpepper.
Exactly right.
And you talk about a guy. He looks smaller than Peter. I'm not kidding you. And Peter's not big. I mean, this guy went from 300 pounds to like 190.
Yeah.
I'm like,
sorry, I keep hijacking the show with these stories. Give us more proud.
No, I love it.
I love the stories. Come on.
Are you kidding me, man?
Let's talk. Let's have all the stories you can. And listen, you have to do that because you don't want to end up like Reggie White, who died of sleep apnea, right?
Yeah.
And he wasn't necessarily the healthiest. That's the minister of defense. I mean,
Sure.
it's really sad. You
Great
look at it,
Christian guy too, by the way.
all the car collisions these players have throughout the years, it takes a toll, and that's the reason why they get paid millions and millions of dollars. A lot of people complain about it, but that's the reason. And you look at the life expectancy rate of a former NFL player. At the end of the day, it's like 53 years old.
Yeah.
53.
That's crazy.
That's still young.
That's too young.
I'm 44.
All right, MVP lines. If it's for Kansas City, do you like Mahomes? I don't, because I'm a guy that always believes that the price makes up for the pick. I can't get a plus 120. I mean, give me a break, man. I'm not doing that. Travis Kelce's plus $1,200.
That's plus 1,200?
Yeah, plus 1,200 according to this line. A.J. Brown for Philadelphia, plus 1,600. Miles Sanders, plus 2,200. Hassan Riddick, plus 3,000. Devonta Smith, plus 3,000. Chris Jones, 4,000. Isaiah Pacheco, 4,000. I mean, what happens when one of these players just go off and have one of these great games? I'd love to have a $100 bill on one. Here's my deep pick for Kansas City. If it's Kansas City, Travis Kelce plus 1,200. Philadelphia side, you ready? I like Devonta Smith plus 3,000. And I also like Miles Sanders, because anybody that doesn't like Miles Sanders after having that game, especially, it's all about that momentum, plus 2,200. I mean, I'm sorry. I can't look at Mahomes and Hurts, even though they're probably going to be their MVP because they're going to be the winning quarterback for them. But unless Hurts can run for 100, 125 yards on this defense, because he sure as hell ain't going to throw for 200, okay, he should not get it. So if you think Philadelphia is going to win, take one of the position players. What do you think, Fred?
What do you say? What did you say? Did you have a number for Hassan Reddick?
I have Hassan Reddick at plus 3,000 right here.
Wow.
That's worth a taste, because the way he's playing, he's been unbelievable in these playoffs and in this stretch run. That's worth a couple shekels. That's not a bad deal. And you know what? I played a couple of stupid bets, which isn't
Tell
surprising.
us, what are they?
Yeah.
They're never stupid.
Well,
I love them.
Scoring the first touchdown in the game, and that's always a tough one. I did a couple things where in the first Niners playoff game, I did the result of the first drive. No, in the championship game, I did results of the first drive between the Eagles and the Niners, and I said field goal. I said, man, maybe they'll stop them. This, and this. As it turned out, because Kyle Shanahan didn't review the call or challenge the call on the catch, they ended up scoring the touchdown. But the other one would have been nice. I'm trying to bring him up real quick here. I think I should have first touchdown of the game. I also have a parlay there too. And this is Kelce for the first touchdown at plus 650. Sanders first touchdown plus 800.
Wow.
So just a couple dollars.
You got to put a couple of dollars on each one of them.
Yeah,
that's
all I did.
You know what I don't have, and I don't know if you have that right available at your tips of your fingers, but on the first drive, what will the first score, not the first drive, but will the first score be a field goal or a touchdown or anything else? I like field goal. They always get the most.
I know.
I mean, do you see that in there by chance?
Not yet. I can look. But
okay.
Yeah, pick your own lines, first half, second half, third half. The novelty bets, passing game. It's amazing what they have for you. Usually on a game on a week, on a weekly game, you may have 5 or 6 different categories. Today they have officiating props. Yeah, penalties over under 10.5. Penalties accepted by the Eagles over under 5. But it's even money. It's not.
Oh my God!
It's not anything.
Stand those. It drives me more nuts than that, Fred. I'm gonna have you keep reading.
Yeah.
It's like nails on a chalkboard. Please tell me. I mean, nobody out there bets. I mean, these are some sick people. If you bet the coin toss, if you bet the over under on the national anthem, even though I had someone listening to the national anthem when they were here in Tampa a couple of years ago, and we knew it was going to be under.
Right.
They didn't take my bet because I was from Tampa and I put a huge amount of money on it. Okay. Because they listened to it the 3 straight days. Peter might remember that. Anybody, you know what? If you're not cheating, you're not trying. I don't care. Don't look at me bad.
That's it. There you go.
But please give me some of these other ridiculous proposition bets. I love these.
Well, here's one. First penalty accepted. Holding at plus 2.25. False start at plus 300. And any other at 400 plus 400. So I mean, even pass interference would be included there. So yeah, it's crazy the way that they have it, how many they have. Sorry, all of a sudden my phone's talking to me now. So
That's okay. Keep talking. We like when you talk.
Turn him down.
There you go.
But yeah, let me see, because you asked about the first drive, and I'm not sure if they have those.
Yeah, that would be fun. But while Fred is looking, I'm going to talk about a few things here. Eagles are favored at -120 if you don't want to lay the 1.5, and the Chiefs are getting a 1.5, so they could be comeback line like +110. So you're really not gaining anything from there. The over and under points total is 51. I'm going to tell you now, if you like the Kansas City Chiefs, you must bet over. If you like Philadelphia, you got to bet under. Sorry, that's a ton of points with that defense. I'm also going to bring up another comment from Gary Ivick. Sleeper MVP Kenneth Gainwell. The Eagles trust his ball security and has had big playoffs this year. He will replace Miles Sanders next year as a featured back. I don't see him in there. And I'll tell you right now, I like Miles Sanders at plus 2,200. If you can find this running back that he's talking about, I guarantee you that those numbers will be off the charts. Again, it's worth a few shekels.
He's been a big part of what they've done in the postseason. He's definitely a complimentary back, and in some cases, because Sanders can't stay healthy consistently, he's been their lead back along with Boston Scott. So they mix it around, and that's the dangerous thing about the Eagles. It's not only Miles Sanders, it's Gainwell, it's Sanders. Sanders, Boston Scott. It's those type of players.
Did you say Boston Scott? His rushing yards over and under 8.5. Okay, think about that. And get this. They're giving you no juice to go over. They're charging you 120 for under 8.5.
Wow.
Okay. I mean, they're begging you to go over. So that means there's no game plan for them. Jalen Hurts.
They're begging you to make the silly bets. They're begging you to make the silly bets.
Sure. Hang on. Kenneth Gainwell was over and under 19. Oh, hang on. I
See,
think this
to me,
is what Gary was talking about.
To me, I would take the over on that. Honestly, I think that could be a really good bet, a really sneaky dark horse bet.
And you know what? I got to thank Gary out there. I think I'm going to throw a few shekels, as my buddy over here, Fred, would say. Actually, I say it all the time. I think I'm going to take that to go over.
Seth over here saying, why does the Greek have a podcast in the kitchen? Because the man is cooking. Have you seen his pics? I mean, oh my God.
Seth, where you been, brother?
Let the man
picking over 70% against the spread that I'm giving out. I don't care if I was sitting in the bathroom. Tune into the show. Forget the kitchen. I know it's nice. I mean, it's not great, but it's my kitchen.
Consequently, a lot of these people are going to be in the bathroom at halftime.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Here's the results of the first drive. Field goal attempt plus 350. Offensive touchdown plus 260. Punt plus 110. Any other plus 450. So, and
what do you like
for everyone
so far?
Jeez. I'd probably go plus 350 for the field goal attempt. I agree with you, what you said.
Hello, that's my pick.
So, yeah.
Okay, if sickos out there want to bet the coin toss, bet the first score is going to be a field goal, because you know what? The butterflies are up. And you know what? Under could be the play for the first half as well. Usually and typically in the second half is when things really start to get exciting. Some of the other ones that I'd like to talk about, A.J. Brown, 72.5 yards. How about this?
I'd take that bet, wouldn't you? Over 72 yards?
Will either team kick a game-winning field goal at the end of normal time? My particular book is giving me plus 1,000.
Wow.
So if it's truly going to be a 1.5 spread game, typically a field goal wins it at the end of regulation.
Ask the Patriots in their Super Bowls.
Yep.
If you don't have Vinatieri.
Here's another one that I like. Juju Smith-Schuster, his over and under in total yards for completion is 35.5, and you pay no juice. They're begging you to bet the over. Do it. Bet the over on that one, because I think Schuster's going to have at least 2 big plays in this game. Fred?
Wow.
Boy, he's been non-existent, though. I have not seen enough of him. I mean, Valdez-Scantling has stepped up. Maybe they go to Smith-Schuster because he'll be more open and they'll be more concerned about Scantling. But that's a tough one. I kind of like.
I'm glad you mentioned him.
I'd stay away from that one.
And especially against Darius Slay and James Bradbury, as we talked about, probably two of the best corners in the game. They're very tough. Of course, don't forget Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who is going to be a matchup also to watch against Kelsey. I think they're going to try to do that, try to throw that matchup out there because Johnson can definitely hold his own.
I guarantee you, if Gardner-Johnson is covering Travis Kelsey, you'll have one personal foul.
At least.
I mean, that guy's an absolute animal. I mean, I cannot stand the way he plays. He's an ass. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, 35.5 yards, Fred.
That's it?
Over and under, minus 15 either way. That's what I'm seeing on my site. I'm not kidding you.
That's crazy. I would take the over on that, don't you? 35 yards? Yeah. I mean, come on. That's basically, besides Kelsey, his go-to guy. That's been his go-to guy in the playoffs.
Yeah, he had 116 with 6 catches. So, yeah, I'd go over on that.
I'm just saying this is why Philadelphia is favored in this game. Vegas is never really that far off on these proposition bets. If it's too good to be true, generally it is. That's why I do like the under if you like Philadelphia. And it's time for me to go ahead and give out that pick. Yes, I do like Philadelphia minus the 1.5. I do not think Kansas City is going to be able to control themselves, and they're going to have to pass the ball. It's going to be rinse, repeat, and Mahomes going to be running for his life all back there. If you like Kansas City, you better see a running game. Otherwise, it's going to be a very long afternoon, and it could be one of these boring games, unfortunately.
Oof. That would not be good.
It could be. For Philly fans, they're going to enjoy it. Pete, is there anything special you'd like to know about any of these proposition bets?
No, I mean, I don't know how you at least don't bet on one of these, right? I mean, because it's staring you right in the face, especially with MVS there, over 35 yards. I mean, I think that's a winner chicken dinner.
Yeah. I like the field goal for
I
the
do
first
too.
score. Fred, what's your favorite one? What do you like, Fred?
I kind of like that one. I hadn't looked at that because, like I said, I made a couple other ones, and of course, as I said before, I made a stupid five leg parlay, but it doesn't seem like it's all that out of reach. Okay. Here, let me give it to you since I got it here.
Oh, I love it.
I try to put some of them on my phone as a picture because they're easier to get to. Okay, 5-leg parlay. Hurts rushing over 50.5 yards. That one could be tough. Mahomes, 2.5 touchdowns throwing. Valdez-Scantling, over 3.5 catches. Anytime touchdown for Sanders, anytime touchdown for Goddard. And that's for $3, $153.
That's cheap.
Yeah, I mean, like I said,
for $3. That's action. I like that.
Those are the kind of things. Those are the kind of things I make. And then the other one is it's a Mahomes over 287.5 with a touchdown scored. So he's got to score a touchdown, run one in, which he can do. One of those things where he's close to the goal line, fakes, and runs one in. $3 for $33. So just a little couple simple things, but like I said, as the game gets closer, I'm sure I'll just throw a couple of dollars here and there because I did win the Manchester game, so that was
here it is. Now you just have to parlay it right in there.
Yeah, exactly. Get that it's found money.
Yep.
So
Peter, who do you like? Pittsburgh, Jesus, Philly minus 1.5, over or under 51. Or you like Kansas City getting the points?
You know what? I was picking this in an over. I'm going Philly in the under, like you said, because of that defense getting after it. And I still don't think Patrick Mahomes is 100%. I get it. People are saying don't rule against him, but I just don't see him being 100%. Now, again, I feel like this Eagle defensive line will be the key to the game. If they can get after Mahomes, we see Mahomes as a different quarterback. I like Philly in the under.
Fred Huebner.
Well, I go the opposite of both of you. So I went Kansas City in the over. You've got the number 1 offense and the number 3 offense. I know Philadelphia's got the number 2 defense, but I think that they're going to be able to score. I think it's going to be up and down the field. I think that's what the NFL likes to see. Not that they're going to, make sure this game's a high-scoring game, but I just got a feeling it will. Hey, we could be wrong. We could all be wrong. Yeah, that's what I'm going to go Kansas City. And the over.
Yeah, my original pick was 34-31 Philadelphia, but
and it would go over.
Right, it would go over. I'm not sure about that now because again, that defense, and usually when it's a number 1 offense versus, I get it, they're not a number 1 defense, but usually traditionally that favors the defense. I can't go against that norm. I can't.
Sure.
No, I totally get it. And when Gary, when he was giving us the comment in here, I've known Gary for quite a long time, and I didn't know that Vic Fangio, they actually hired him for 2 weeks to go ahead and coach and actually talk with his defense.
Didn't he just sign with someone? Didn't he just sign
He
with
signed
Miami?
with
Dolphins.
the best defensive coordinator in
Yeah.
the last decade is now with the Miami Dolphins.
Huh.
Mm.
And
Wow.
also look for Coach Jim Leavitt to possibly join his staff. People down here in the Tampa area will understand who that is.
Yep.
Not too many people up north would really know who he is. But for those reasons, I even like it even more now, especially with the under.
Well, you should definitely know who he is because he used to be a linebacking coach of the San Francisco 49ers, which by
Coach
the way,
Leavitt?
yes, they believe they went to the Super Bowl versus the Baltimore Ravens, and he's directly responsible for Navarro Bowman and, of course, the other guy there, Patrick Willis.
Willis, right?
Did not
Which
know
it
that.
seems like he's forgotten to talk about a guy that was here,
Yeah.
that played and all of a sudden just disappeared.
Well, he didn't play long.
Well, he got
career.
paid, Fred.
Yeah.
He got paid.
Yeah, he did.
Oh, he got paid to sit
Yeah.
down. That I know firsthand because there was a couple of people that actually have very close ties to him, and he had no interest. He's like, "Are you kidding me? I could sit back for 2 years and collect these millions. I'll be ready in a couple of years, guys. I'll wait for my opportunity." And there he was. I mean, he just went right. I was kind of shocked. I thought he was going back to Denver. But then again, inside sources said that he didn't want to take the slap in the face from being their head coach to being a D coordinator.
Sure.
Well, and that's it. That's the thing. And going back to Willis, I mean, he had concussion problems. So being a younger player, he didn't want to end up like some of these players of yesteryear having CTE problems, because it's a real thing. It's a real scare at the end of the day. It really is.
Well, and they had that other player who was out of Ohio State, played 1 year and then retired. After just the first season. I can't remember his name. He was a linebacker out of Ohio State, and he did the same thing. Had a tremendous rookie year, and then retired. He says, "Forget it. It's not worth damaging my body and my head for this. I'll go do something else." And he did. So, more power to him for doing those things.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what? We're about 7 hours away from game time. I got to tell you, it's going to be an exciting game. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Whatever you're doing, just make sure you're doing it safe. I'm super excited, and I'm not going to ask you what you had for dinner. Fred would not understand what that means. I know someday I will explain it to you, but I'm excited. Just like Peter's going to say, "You excited?" Yeah, I'm excited. Fred, are you excited? You got to say you're excited.
It'll build throughout the day. Throughout the day, and then after the end,
someday I'll explain what the comment means. You're going to kind of get a little bit of a kick out of it. I'm Harry the Greek. Thanks for tuning in to the Over Under. Usually I let everybody promote themselves, but you know what? For Fred Huebner, Peter Blake,
yes,
Harry the Greek, I always say keep your bets low and make your returns high. Just enjoy it. Man, it's going to be a long time until football comes back on. But
Sure
you know
will.
what? Our Chicago Bears have the #1 overall pick, and they're going to
better trade that
out of it. They're going to trade it not once, Fred. You ready? Twice. They're going to trade twice.
Parlay it into multiple first round
There you
picks.
go.
Build that team right there.
Anyway,
Build that
thanks for
defensive line. Yeah,
everybody. Thank you for tuning into the Over Under. Again, enjoy your day. Make sure it's safe. We should see you soon next week, and hope all your bets come in. We'll talk to you soon. Take care, everybody.
Take it easy.